Welcome back to the Books Bible Study. We are continuing in Leviticus Chapter 15, verse 1 says, And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, verse 2, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, When any man has a discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. Verse 3, And this shall be his uncleanness in regards to his discharge. Whether his body runs with his discharge or his body is stopped up by his discharge, it is his uncleanness. So any abnormal bodily flow, right? Most commonly, a genital discharge is unclean. And this is also called an issue, right? An issue like the woman with the issue of blood. When fluid come out of you not in the right season or persistently, it causes you to be unclean. So verse 4 says, Every bed is unclean on which he who has the discharge lies, and everything on which he sits shall be unclean. Verse 5, And whoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 6, He who sits on anything on which he who has the discharge sat shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 7, And he who touches the body of him who has the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 8, If he who has the discharge spits on him who is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 9, Any saddle on which he who has the discharge rides shall be unclean. Verse 10, Whoever touches anything that is under him shall be unclean until evening. He who carries any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Even touching, spitting, any contact with someone who has a discharge, they are unclean until evening. Verse 11, And whomever the one who has a discharge touches and has not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 12, The vessel of earth that he who has the discharge touches shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. Verse 13, And when he who has a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, wash his clothes, and bathe his body in running water, then he shall be clean. Verse 14, On the 8th day he shall take for himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord to the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and give them to the priest. Verse 15, Then the priest shall offer them, the one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord because of his discharge. Verse 16, If any man has an emission of semen, then he shall wash all his body in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 17, And any garment and any leather on which there is semen, it shall be washed with water and be unclean until evening. Verse 18, Also, when a woman lies with a man and there is an emission of semen, they shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. So even while they're unclean, they cannot go to the tabernacle, right? Because it's considered unholy. Verse 19, If a woman has a discharge, and the discharge from her body is blood, she shall be set apart 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening, which is why the woman with the issue of blood said if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she wasn't even supposed to be around other people, right? Verse 20, Everything that she lies on during her impurity shall be unclean. Also, everything that she sits on shall be unclean. Verse 21, Whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 22, And whoever touches anything that she sat on shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Verse 23, If anything is on her bed or on anything on which she sits, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until evening. Verse 24, And if any man lies with her at all, so that her impurity is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. Verse 25, If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, other than at the time of her customary impurity, or if it runs beyond her usual time of impurity, all the days of her unclean discharge shall be as the days of her customary impurity. She shall be unclean. Verse 26, Every bed on which she lies all the days of her discharge shall be to her as the bed of her impurity, and whatever she sits on shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her impurity. Verse 27, whoever touches those things shall be unclean. He shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. It's just like all these verses are repeating the same thing. If you touch it, if you got a discharge, you're unclean. Okay? Verse 28, but if she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall count for herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. Verse 29, and on the 8th day she shall take for herself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and bring them to the priest to the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Verse 30, then the priest shall offer the one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, and the priest shall make atonement for her before the Lord for the discharge of her uncleanness. Verse 31, thus you shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, lest they die in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. Verse 32, this is the law for one who has a discharge, and for him who emits semen and is unclean thereby. Verse 33, and for her who is indisposed because of her customary impurity, that's the time of the month, right? And for one who has a discharge, either man or woman, and for him who lies with her, who is unclean. So this is the law for discharge coming from the body. That's any abnormal bodily flow. So anything coming from the body that is not normal flow for life. So we have blood, right? We have saliva. Those things is a part of the daily life. But when semen is emitted in the menstrual cycle, they are unclean until 7 days past the point of it stopping, right? And you could not touch anything that they touched. So this is the law for that in Leviticus chapter 15. Stay tuned for Leviticus chapter 16. God bless.